take seriously responsibility. If I make a commitment, I show.
Yeah.
Okay? My colleagues are a bunch of losers. So,
All right, well, I promised these nice people that we were gonna get started when you got here.
here.
And I appreciate it. So I don't remember, I'm not sure you remember exactly what we talked about.
I do, I remember, and I regret it immediately.
As you should. But,
You basically made it sound, this, as I say, public humiliator.
well, we're gonna change it up a little
Good,
bit.
because I'm not gonna reveal the level of Jonathan that I've worked on in my teens.
Sad,
I was an awful person. You know, I'm old now, so
How's this changed?
I'm a good person, I'm just not nice.
That's a complete distinction.
But it's true. I mean, nice has functionally worn out the good, because basically people are stupid enough to fall for bullshit, and they tend to mistake nice for good. And they find themselves easily manipulated by people who are kind to them. And I don't care enough about other people to manipulate them. I came to understand a long time ago that I was not political. I was never going to be a person who could run a company or be an editor or a publisher or represent a corporate enterprise with anything other than shame and remorse. So, as an adult, I came to understand that I had to accept my lot in life. And my lot in life is to play the part of an old Jew Cassandra who points out shit to you people, you don't listen, it happens, and you say, what the fuck? Why didn't I listen to the old Jew? You know, well, you didn't, you won't. You know, there's Dave, there's Cully, look.
Hey, nobody told.
Wait, have you heard the nobody told you story as often as I have now recently? So no mooks come, they not only don't bring someone to sit at my table, they come to my table at 10 after 3 to tell me that I'm at a panel.
Right.
And I've already told that we're not humiliating ourselves.
We're gonna do it a little differently.
All right, so,
Kelly knows about this.
you know?
He's the one who pushed me in this direction.
What's the direction you put?
Hi, Dave.
Hey.
Absolutely.
I don't know anything.
And by the way,
I don't know anything.
he knows, this is not new for Cully.
So, okay, Adam Phillips, Howard Chaykin, Cully Hamner, Dave Johnson, you know everybody on this panel. So this is sort of an opportunity to talk about some of the crazier or weirder moments from your careers. And I'm going to start with a couple of questions like, tell me about a time that somebody you looked up to in this industry said something to you that you wished was better advice, but it was, you know. That could be, but you told me about one on the phone. But I'll
What did I tell you? Whisper today. Oh, yeah. Okay. No, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more, well, you want to start?
Well, you were about to.
All right, well, when I was 18 years old, Gil Kane's assistant died in his sleep over an undiagnosed heart ailment. He was 21 years old. He would have turned into a serious player because he was very good. I called Gil 2 days later and said, hey, I hear your assistant's dead. Do you need someone? Because I was callous and filled with, that teenage shitness. I went to work for him. Came to see him, and I showed him my book. And I apologized for it, describing it as mediocre. And he said, tut, my boy, this work is shit. And it was like, oh. I learned a valuable lesson there that, as I said earlier, being good is different from being nice. And although I actually did no hands-on work for the year that I spent. Who's sitting at my table? You did? Don't lie to me. I'm old and I have nothing to lose.
I promise I'm not like
All right. And Cheryl is still not coming, by the way.
We think.
No, he's not.
You never know.
Mark is like Jesus. You never know.
She'll rise again.
What?
She'll rise again.
Boy, him again.
Like yeast.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's it for me.
All right.
You know what? Actually, I said the first time I met Howard, I was a huge fan of Howard.
Yes.
This is probably 94. I don't know if you remember this. No, this was in San Diego, at San Diego Comic-Con. I was doing a book called Firearm at the time, and Howard was doing the covers. And
Why, I don't know, because I'm not a good cover guy.
I don't know, but like, we were either introduced or I introduced myself to you or something like that. And he said, oh yes, I know your work. I know your work. You're very good. You're very good. You're slow as shit. And that was my introduction to Howard. He told me I was slow as shit.
I thought your introduction was in the car with Todd DeZago and Jim Starr.
That was like 10 years later.
Really?
Yeah.
So obviously I blocked out that first meeting.
Yeah, because I met Howard a couple of times in San Diego, and I was like, he's really mean.
He is kind of mean.
Yeah.
It's true.
No, mine, I was working at DC on a Chaykin War series, and I had some Xerox copies with me. I was at Atlanta Fantasy, or yeah, at the time it was Atlanta, it might have been Dragon Con by that point. But it used to be Atlanta Fantasy Fair, and John Byrne was there, who I grew up, that was my guy, along with Mike Golden, you know. And I was like, oh man, I get to meet John Byrne, you know, and show him that I'm in the industry, and I'm like you. And
One of your kind.
yeah, and he was sitting, not really doing anything. He was talking to somebody next to him when I came up, and I said, hey, you know, I'm Dave Johnson, I just started working at DC, got this blah, 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 here's my work, and he just goes, you draw like Paul Gulacy. And turned his back to me. And I was like,
You know how many insults are in that line? You know how much condescension is built into that?
oh, believe me, I never wanted to meet the guy ever again. But then, not long after that, I was at San Diego, and I got introduced to Art Adams 4 times in groups, you know, outside of the con.
And he didn't remember you each time?
Exactly. But that wasn't the bad part. That I was.
Still remember.
He wasn't at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and so anyway, I was drawing an artist alley back when you could get an artist alley table and there'd be nobody around, you know, it was like a dead zone, especially on Sunday. And I'm working on a commission, I look up and I see Art Adams walking by, and I go, hey, well, we met 4 times that weekend. And I was like, hey, Art Adams, how's it going? He goes, oh, I'm just looking for somebody interesting to talk to. And then he walked off. And then he stopped and he turned around and he goes, just kidding. But then he kept going. But I got even with him years later.
By setting fire to his house.
Well, years later, I used to do these 8.5 by 11 Kinko sketchbooks called Sports that just had a lot of goofy shit in them. And I sold one to a guy, and he came back later that day and he said, I needed another one. And I said, I just sold you one. He goes, yeah, but Art Adams stole it. He liked it too much. So the next day I'm drawing a commission, and all of a sudden I look up and there's Art Adams, and he's now kissing my butt because he loved the sport so much. And I didn't say anything then, but then I ran into him when he was holding court outside of the con behind the hotel, you know, back when, I forget which one, the Hilton. And he's holding court with a bunch of people, and he waves me over, and he goes, man, it's a pleasure to meet you. And I said, well, technically, we met, you know, once before. And I told everybody that story, and everybody was like, oh, Art, you're a dick. And so it felt pretty good. I got my revenge. So
I think it's very.
He's a great guy, by the way. Don't get me wrong.
I mean,
he was even better when he had hair.
Right. That's where we are.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that none of these stories are about bad advice that you got from somebody you looked up to. They're just people being dicks.
Oh, no, I think the advice that I got from Gil was really good advice.
But our stories are about people being dicks.
I mean, my memory of meeting Cully for the first time was in a car at this convention years ago. I thought it was
Years later.
He said it's years later. I disbelieve it. And it was with 2 people in the front seat, and one of them turned back to me, and I was sitting in the back seat with one of them turned back to me and said, can you give me 3 good reasons why I shouldn't beat the shit out of so and so and so? And Cully looked at me, and I said, now you know. I won't the name of the shit beater or the to be beaten up.
Right.
They know the names.
The night you're talking about was the night that I decided you weren't a dick.
I was fun then.
You were very a lot of fun. Yeah.
That was some funny shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the night I saved Mark Nathan's life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
it's true. Yeah, Mark was making some really bad choices, and I stuck my nose into his business and changed his experience.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, truth.
All
That's
right.
why I'm here every year. It's
Nice.
payback, and I have no idea why.
I'm going to ask another question.
Oh, you are you?
Yeah, I like to ask questions.
All right, good.
Okay, tell us, was there ever a time that you were offered a job, you turned it down, and later you regretted it?
I've never turned a job down.
Okay.
I'm serious. I have never, I'm a comic book man. I'm a member of the community. And you never turn work down. It is experience, because people who turn work down are arrogant assholes. Here's why. If someone offers you a job that you either don't want to do or cannot do, your job is not to say no, but to recommend someone else for the job.
That's the
Oh,
one.
I do that.
Yeah.
That's how you do
Yeah.
it. Because basically, the work is out there, and there are people who need work, people who want the work, and you don't turn work. I mean, for example, Mike Vosberg got the job doing Tales from the Crypt covers for the TV series for 3 years because I turned it down. But I did not say, not me. Well, hey, I'm not appropriate for the work anyway. I'm not that guy. I couldn't do that kind of artwork. But I knew Vosberg needed the dough. He underpriced himself like a fucking idiot. I mean, they offered me nearly twice what he ended up settling for. But I wasn't. None of my business. He wanted the job. He got the job. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I turned down Watchmen, that's how I
The only time
Yes.
I can think of, the closest, like, sort of corollary to that I have, was not something that I turned down a job that, simply turned down a job. I was offered 2 jobs by a writer that I knew, my pick of the 2 jobs. And the one that I didn't choose was Starman.
What is
So
it?
I chose Firearm, James Robinson.
What is starving?
Starman.
What's Starman?
Yeah. So the one that I chose was Firearm, and the right guy got Starman, which was Tony Harris.
I mean, if Chiarello was here, he did 4 issues of a book called Johnny Double with Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Riso, and they wanted him to do the 100 Bullets covers, and he turned it down and gave it to me.
Yeah.
So.
And like you said, that's what you do. You recommend something.
That's how it works. I mean, I'm really glad, because I think Dave was a more appropriate guy for the
Sure.
Bullets covers.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave, I've been telling Dave I've known Dave for a couple of years.
Just a few.
What's that?
Just a few.
Just a couple.
How many years have I known you?
Honestly, I can't remember one.
No, I mean-
because my brain is mush.
Well, also, I mean, at my age, everything is 10 years ago.
Right.
And it's not. I mean, I was sitting and talking about SummerSlam 2010, which is a part of my work experience with wrestling. And it's 15 years ago. It's like, holy shit, Aaron and I was still Flacco. It just, but the fact is, I've been telling Dave since I got to know him that out of those 100 bullet covers, every one of those covers is a submissible entry into the Society of Elder Series Best in Show.
And he
So,
told
yeah.
he told the flight attendants on our flight out that he's like, hey, that guy back there, he's a genius. And I was like, what?
It's true.
They're like, he doesn't look like a genius.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what I said. Pay no attention to the fact that he looks like a hayseed. He is a genius.
That was a bit weird walking off a plane and like what?
They're like,
I wanted to fuck with you more, but I couldn't come up with anything. I mean, she was showing me photographs of one of her neighbors who apparently has worked for IDW. Get out of here with you. Not good. And I kept saying, no, he's not very good. I'm good. That guy's great. That kind of stuff. So yeah, but you got to do that. I mean, we're a community, and one of the things that's different from that generation and mine is we all live together. In my time, because you had to live in New York City, and I will tell a story about douchebaggery. Okay, I had an apartment in New York City on 26th Street between 2nd and 3rd. It was a 5th floor apartment, elevator, 6 floors, one of those mid-60s buildings, and I was paying $375 a month. All right. When I got married, I moved around the corner, and they kept the lease, and I turned the apartment over to a writer friend of ours, one of our colleagues, who basically kept it at that rent. All right? And he had it for 3.5 years. When he moved, he did the same thing as I did. He rolled it over, he kept the lease, and gave it to one of our colleagues, whose name I will not mention. I'll tell them. And I'll tell him probably, but not you, because he'll hate me even more than you do. And that guy, when he left the apartment, he just let it go, because he's a cunt. And you basically don't do that. You pay attention to people around you. Your job is to be supportive to the rest of the world that functions with you.
I do have a story where I passed something on. I got hired to work on the Black Dynamite cartoon from Yeah, Black Diamond, yeah,
Yeah.
the John Michael, yeah.
Great.
And they wanted me to match the style that they'd done the first pilot for. And I give it a shot, you know, but I just knew I wasn't the right guy. And I knew this guy named Chase Connolly was out there doing the same style, and he was brand new. And I said, look, I know you guys like what I'm doing, but I think this guy is a much better fit. So I actually gave up a pretty decent paying job to give it to somebody who would do a much better job.
I don't really think it was one more thing you'd resent later.
Yeah.
No, I felt good about it.
I know, but you'll find ways to resent everything you've done.
Sure.
That's what Johnson means in the old studios.
Oh, please.
Andrew Robinson's first work was work that I couldn't do. Like I had broken in recently and I had a job at Dark Horse, but then Marvel and DC started offering me bigger jobs and I just didn't have the time to keep this job. And I met Andrew and I thought he was great. I just recommended him for it. And he tells people that all the time in every interview he does.
Look, I mean, I'm responsible for J.H. Williams' career. I ran into Williams at a convention in Sacramento, and he was doing bondage comics for some web book. And I said, this shit is too good for that. And I brought him over to...
Yeah, but you gotta have a hobby.
No, I see my error on my way. And I introduced him to one of the editors at DC, I forget who it was. And he went to work immediately. He was that good. He was good from word one. And he says his mother, he was living in Modesto or some shit, you know, like there's this bizarre, you know, this where serial killers go to take a vacation. You know? But
So
yeah,
we're all big believers in pay it forward.
absolutely, you got to, you really have to.
I like it. Okay, how about this? Tell me about some of the crazier things you've been asked to draw, either at a, you know, by an editor or like a fan who's trying to get you to draw
Can I
a
start?
mission.
I would hope you would.
I know what you're going to talk about.
Well, it's funny with the advent of the internet, we don't get the kind of requests that we used to get back in the 90s, or even before, I'm sure, by people who had nowhere else to go to visualize their fantasies come true. And yeah, one of our best stories, me and Cully, we used to go to Heroes Con every year, and there was a guy who would wear those fishing hats that were like baseball hats, but the brim would come out this far. I don't know why. That's just to keep the sun out of your eyes so you can see the fish better. But he talked like Mr. Haney from Green Acres, like, how's it going? What's going on there, buddy? And his thing was Batgirl and scuba gear. That was his thing. We called him Scuba Guy. And over the years, it got weirder and weirder. It was like Batgirl and scuba gear, chained up, all this kind of stuff. And one year before, like a week or two before Heroes Con, for some reason, one of us at Gaijin Studios looked at the letters pages in Batman Adventures, and there was a letter from a guy who suggested, wouldn't it be great if Batman and Robin were kidnapped by Black Manta, and Batgirl had to don scuba gear to come save them. And so we were all like, oh my God, that's gotta be Scuba Guy. Right. And the editor was gonna be at Heroes Con. And we told him, we said, look, if this guy comes up, you gotta let us know how it goes down. And the next day we saw him, and he goes, oh my God, Scuba Guy showed up. We were like, what happened? And he came up to Scott, it was Scott Peterson.
Yeah.
Scott Peterson. And he introduced himself, and he said, hey, I'm the guy who wrote this letter. And Scott was like, oh, great. And he goes, so when do I start? And he goes, start what? And he goes, when do I start writing a story? And he goes, no, we just liked your letter, and we put it in the book. And he goes, you mean I'm not hired? And he goes, no. And he dips his head down, and he sighs, and he comes back up, and he goes, but I quit my job. Holy shit. Now, to be fair, he worked at a comic store, but I just imagine him walking into the store going, suck it, motherfuckers, I'm DC Comics.
That man was motivated.
There was another, yeah, that
It
was.
had like, always wanted white witch in compromising situations.
Yeah, but
This guy looked like a miniature Sasquatch.
well, he had the Mo Howard haircut with a mullet, and his beard came all the way up
All
to
the way
his
under his
eyes, jet black hair, and he always wore a white Oxford short sleeve shirt carrying a briefcase, so he looked like a businessman.
Right.
And he would always come up and go, can you draw a white witch? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And he goes, can you draw it? And I'm like, what? And he goes, can you draw it? You know, and I'm like, look, dude, I can't hear you. He goes, can you draw Mickey? And I was like, oh.
Dave starts taking his clothes off.
But I ran into him in a group of fans at the bar later that night, and he was like raising his hand, and I was like, yeah. And he goes, is it true? And I'm like, what? And he goes, is it true that white witch is pregnant? And I'm like, dude, I don't know.
I didn't do it.
But there was also Glue Guy. Remember Glue Guy?
Blue guy, no.
His thing was he wanted you to draw female characters covered in glue. White glue.
Wait a minute. Glue. Let us for the moment just step back from this and think glue.
But now with the internet, they can do it anonymously.
Now they can just do it there.
Find people of like mind, you know. So I haven't gotten any.
No, I haven't got any weird stuff like that in a long time.
There used to be a guy in San Diego whose obsession, very specific, was Barbie Benson? Barbie Benton?
Barbie Benton.
You had after his girlfriend, dressed in superhero outfits, tied up. And I was lucky enough to be able to say, I don't do likenesses. And was able to step away from this responsibility. But recently, I was between art assignments. I was writing a great deal, and I really feel like felt the need to do something at my desk. So I posted on Facebook that I would be willing to do, in tribute to the upcoming Black Kiss Omnibus, I was going to do some dirty shit. And some of the stuff I got that I turned down.
Did they involve Cully?
I did.
You would never turn that down.
I did some seriously, transgressive shit.
Depraved, what you said.
I wouldn't say depraved, more transgressive.
Okay.
The depraved stuff I said no to.
Yeah.
It was just,
You do that for free.
What?
You do that for free.
No, I'm a whore. So, but the Barbie Benton guy was the hero, just the best.
It's good times. I kind of miss those days. Those were always fun.
Wild West.
Yeah.
The Wild West.
Yeah. That was really dismissive.
It really was.
All right, was there ever a time somebody asked you for a piece of advice or asked you to look at their work and felt like you said the wrong thing?
I'll tell you, I was just in San Jose, and
That's your first mistake.
this guy walked up to me, and he had his portfolio with him, and he had his wife with him. And the guy, I was looking at the guy's stuff, and I was giving him whatever notes that I had, and he goes, you looked at my portfolio like 10 years ago. And I was like, well, what did I tell you? And he goes, you told me my work needed to get some balls. And I was like, did I say that? Well, that's a really asshole thing to say. And his wife leans in, she goes, you weren't wrong. This was just a couple of months ago.
Wow.
Now that's a domestic relationship.
Right.
I
I will say his work had gained some balls
It gained some
in the
balls.
years since.
No, I used to have a reputation.
Used to.
Well, I mean, God, nobody ever brings portfolios up anymore. It seems like
Because of your reputation.
Well, I used to be very
Blunt.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You still are.
well, then I started asking. I said, do you want an ass kissing or an ass kicking?
Yeah, you want to
Because if you just want to be your ass kissed, that's
Yeah.
not going to help you in the long run. So, but one guy brought up he had done a lot of pen and ink with watercolor, but he was using quill on the worst paper you could ever use quill on. It was bleeding and splattering everywhere.
Nobody had told him there was other stock.
Yeah, I even held it up and it looked like a cloudy day. you know, which isn't good, by the way. It should be like, it should look like a clear day. And, but also all his watercolor, like he was using, like there was like water was somehow super expensive and he didn't want to use a lot. So it was terrible. And, you know, and I'm telling him all this stuff and he goes, well, I like my style. And I'm like, okay. All right, I don't even know what you're asking them, you know? It's like you seem to have it all figured out, you know? So.
You look at portfolio?
Yeah.
Are you kind?
It depends. I mean, you know, if you deserve it.
Yeah, I'm with Dave. I mean, if you want me to tell you how much I like it, or you want me to tell you what I think of it really?
I mean, sometimes you will get a portfolio, and I hate to say this, it's so bad that there's kind of almost no hope.
Yeah.
And you just kind of tell them something to get them moving along.
No, that's ridiculous.
Well, sometimes I can usually tell if they really want to hear some constructive criticism. And if I get the vibe that they don't, I try to focus on the materials they're using.
Well, one of the problems, most of the portfolios you see are guys who draw like cartoonists or like comic book artists, but don't do comics. They have no idea what a comic book page looks like. They think they do. There's no understanding of the actual logistics involved in making a page. And trying to explain this to them, they begin to look at you as you're speaking, you know, Urdu. It's a language that makes no sense. I mean, when you go to a convention like this, there's always these guys in Artist Alley who are selling you prints of pictures of the Joker and things like that. And these are guys who consider themselves comics artists. They're not comics artists. They're guys who draw comic book characters in a style that reminds you of comic book drawing. But making a comic book, I mean, Dave hasn't done continuity for a long time. He just recently did continuity on a Batman job with some help. And continuity is what it's about. I mean, making a page that is endowed with narrative value is what our job is. And for the most part, you see page portfolios that are reflections of a kind of like excited, sensational sensibility. It's like very edgy, all this stuff. And it's a statement about cowardice that they can't simply do a 6-panel grid. The reason for this boils down to really the fact that comics is not a meritocracy, and comics rewards a kind of patronizing and pandering self-love. I mean, there's at least one cartoonist whose name I will not mention, whose career is based on drawing in a way that the audience would draw if it could. And the work is just execrable. It's terrible work. But
I think I know what you're talking about.
I'll bet you do. And it reminds the audience of what it would do if it could. And that is an enormous attraction. And there are people who might think that's punk rock, but I think it's just shit. You know, it demonstrates a contempt for the audience because it's just, no one's working. Mainstream comics are pointless and frivolous. They're really difficult to do well. Okay? To be really good at this, you have to have a mindset that's committed to serving what is basically junk with all your best effort. And that's really what it's about. And frequently the portfolios you see are just, there's no understanding of how much work is called for in this.
And that's why when you do get someone at a convention that actually shows that promise, that ability to understand what the job is, and it's like discovering a little piece of gold, you know. It actually makes me really happy when
I mean, when I see that, my first note is, I can get you to do better work for me as my assistant than you do for yourself. Because the one thing you're missing is discipline. It's being pushed into a position of having to really work your fucking ass off. I hired an assistant years ago, an autistic cat, who's still my friend. And he came to work for me, and he thought he was going to be my partner within a couple of months, because he'd been hearing how good he was for a long time. I said to him, Kilkenny said to me, no, you work his other shit. We were working together for about 6 months later, and we're in the studio, the music is going, and all of a sudden he says, holy shit, this shit is really fucking hard. We all laugh. What's happened now is that his drawing has improved incrementally, but his picture making, his page making are there.
Yeah.
which is a different thing.
Exactly. And that is what is needed. That is what is called for. Okay. Pictures, pages, images endowed with narrative value. Or pages organized with space panels have a lot, there's a reason why this panel is this big, why this panel is next to this one. Okay? And I speak from personal experience because I sucked. I didn't get good until I became an analytical.
You know, and I gotta say, I mean, we have three of the really great storyteller designers here, so it's a thrill to have you guys on this panel.
I would contact